All right. Well, welcome everyone. And I appreciate you wanting to be here with us today. My name is Rich Lohman, and I'm one of the coaches on the Project 1202 team. And on behalf of each of us, I'm excited that you're here. And I can't wait to engage with you. We're going to go through, a little bit of a scripted presentation, give you some insight into your discovering your disc strengths. And then we're going to shut down the recording and we're going to go into a little bit of Q&A. So again, if you're catching this live, we're going to have a engaging conversation about the POWERDISC. And if you're catching this as a recording, I say welcome, and hopefully we can engage and talk to you about how we can help you access the POWERDISC, the disc, and the tool that we feel is probably the most economical tool out there to give you so many different areas of growth to your potential. So without further ado, again, let's just begin by identifying our strengths in how we influence people and, how we influence the results that we generate. So within the context of this, what we really want to talk about is, tennis players talk about that sweet spot. The sweet spot on the tennis racket, most will describe it as a place on a tennis racket where when you hit the ball, the ball just goes further and stronger than in any other parts of the racket. It could be said the same thing for a golf club, where there's a sweet spot on a golf club to hit a golf ball. But what we're talking about is the sweet spot, and we're talking about it because it's true for us as well. When we operate in our sweet spot, we too are able to have better results in every area of our life, in all actuality. So many of us have heard or participated in some sort of Gallup survey, especially if you're a little bit older like me. Maybe young people haven't necessarily, but they exist. Gallup surveys are out there for us to collect data about how we operate as humans. They have decades of research in their State of the American Workplace survey. They found that 60% of employees say the ability to do what they do best in a role is very important to them. And I think that's crucially important to what we're going to be talking about today with the POWERDISC. And in their decades of research, they also found this is huge. People who use their strengths every day are 6 times likely to be engaged in their job. Let me say that again, 6 times more likely to be engaged in their job. I know we're in a day and age where some of us don't feel overly engaged in our jobs. And if we're in a leadership role, we don't always feel like our people around us are engaged in their job. Workplace engagement is being challenged right now by so many different variables. But when a person is in their area of strength, they're 6 times more likely. And strengths allow you and I, to find that sweet spot and know what we're trying to accomplish. In our Maxwell DISC Personality Indicator Report, we call it the DISC Report, we have a page dedicated just to your strengths. So if you do have a disc in front of you because you've already taken the disc, what we want to encourage you is to turn to the POWERDISC page. If it is in a normal disc, it would be page 17. If it's in some other disc page, you'll have to go, sifting through the pages of your disc report. But if it is a Maxwell DISC Personality Indicator Report, we have this exclusive POWERDISC page in our report that shows us our leadership strengths, our strengths, and how we accomplish things. So go ahead and turn to that page. It's going to look a little bit like what's on your screen now. And when we take a look at the POWERDISC, we will discuss what each of the strengths mean first and foremost. There is a line in the center of the graph. If you look at it, we kind of call that the midline. And the midline is considered an area of natural strength. And those below the midline would not be considered a natural strength. But we, with an intentional plan, we can gain some benefit in that area. We can actually, create a PDP, a personal development plan, to help you in the areas that aren't your natural strength. For example, I know one leader who is not strong at relatability, which is on the far right of the graph, and that is the last column on the chart. Well, she was not naturally gifted in relating with others. By participating in one of our coaching programs, she was able to neutralize that. And the coaching program that we had her use was communication success. So let's talk about each category on the POWERDISC and help you get acclimated to what it is. The first column is the I, and this is stands for influencing, which is the skill of natural communication. People with a higher influencing score are natural communicators and can generally make quick decisions. Many people see them as a natural-born leader. High influencers prefer to be in charge of a team. High influencers have a balanced orientation between task orientation and people-first orientation. And what you'll easily recognize someone with the strength of influencing, in fact, you will often find them in a group of people leading the conversation. People with a lower influencing score tend to prefer to be part of the team rather than to lead the team. It isn't that they lack leadership skills, they just prefer a supportive or collaborative role. So as you can see on the screen, it does designates more for influencing is a D and an I personality type skill set. Now, if we move along, the next in the column, second column with the D below it, the D stands for directing. People with a higher directing score are very task-oriented and get the job done. The leadership style of the high directing score tends to be telling style and tend to view others as a means to accomplish the task. With a strong drive for results, people who are strong in directing are the type of people who are naturally gifted in delegating to others. People with a lower directing score tend to focus more on the process and the people that are involved than those with a higher directing score. People with a lower directing score would rather, be people that are self-motivated and, having to be in the heavy, the heavy-fisted forcing people to get tasks done. So, it's more of a task orientation. The next column is the column for that's the P for processing. People with a high processing score tend to see the steps in the process, but often forget that the goal of the process is to accomplish a given task. High processors tend to also have high standards and therefore high expectations for themselves as well as the team and the people around them. High processors also tend to be very organized and have a team focus. The processing leadership style tends to be a selling style, seeking buy-in from the whole team. When someone is gifted in processing, they create or refine and use standard processes to drive results. People with a low processing score will work with the process, but they don't want to be bogged down with the details. Low processors prefer new challenges and adventures to routine tasks. They want to be spontaneous in how they deal with it. The next column in the POWERDISC is the detailing, or the second D. That fourth column, you'll see that the D and the D stands for detailing because high detailing people enjoy working with details of a plan. They can analyze a plan and identify potential shortfalls. High detailers tend to be cautious, very precise and accurate. The leadership style of the high detailer is a hands-on, one being intimately involved with the details, whereas detailers follow a plan through to completion and may feel lost without closure. People naturally gifted in detailing can oftentimes see the details that those of lower in details do not easily see. People with low detailing score tend to fly more by the seat of their pants and forego the details. Low detailers are more action-oriented and fast-paced. Next on the POWERDISC is the column with the C that measures creativity. People with a high creating score or creativity score can often be the great idea people. They can often appear to be high-flung and quite unique. And, those high creators can be very fun and entertaining. I will say that, though. High creators can generate great passion for their ideas, but don't always execute well. High creators usually have a good balance between people, people skills and the details of the task at hand. The high creator leadership style is one of new ideas and problem solving. High creators tend to overflow with optimism, and every day is a new day and every day is a great day. That's kind of my most natural style. So just giving you guys a sense, I'm a high influencer and I'm a high creator on my POWERDISC. When someone is naturally gifted in creating, they have the ability to easily see how things could be rather than how they already are. People with a low creating score prefer the routine and stick to the tried and true methods. So if that's you, the balance of the lower creator to the high creator is that they tend to keep their feet on the ground and think things through. The low creator's lack of enthusiasm is often seen as pessimism, but in fact, generally they are steady people, not prone to strong emotional demonstrations. Next on the list is the column that is marked with a P for persisting. People with a high persisting score are often seen as troubleshooters. The strength of people with a high persisting score is that they can remain focused on the task when everyone else is ready to give up. People with a high persisting score rise to the challenge and take the lead when the going gets tough. People admire their ability to drive forward even when the pace is fast and it's got a lot of challenges in it. So often you won't see their best until the challenge rises and it starts to rise to the top of the task list. People with low persisting score tend to become anxious when faced with a challenge. They can become quick naysayers, but this is also a skill in identifying faults in leadership. Generally, the person with a low persisting score also has the skill to articulate these faults with tact and diplomacy. Now, the person with the high relating, the far right R on the columns, score is very people-oriented. They love people and feel a day is a waste of time if they haven't made new friends. They are great networkers and great encouragers. They're seen as warm and compassionate people, and people naturally follow them or flow to them. Relators make everyone on the team feel welcome and could put others at ease. The person with a low relating score tends to prefer to work alone and focus more on the task and high quality results as opposed to people and relationships. Now, if you can identify yourself, who, is listening that is a C-wired person, what I want you to do is just acknowledge, yes, that's me, I'm a C-wired person. And I think that's great because you're going to like the data that's on the slide, because someone with a strong C-wiring or a strength for details would mean that you are more than likely to look at a graph and wonder, what are the scores behind the graph and the description on your POWERDISC? People-oriented, I's and S's, not so much. Graphs, numbers, they don't mean as much to us. For example, look at the graph on the screen and you will see a section for each of the 7 POWERDISC areas. While the exact scores are not displayed, here are how the intensity classifications are derived. It is all about the intensity. The higher the bar graph, the more intensity of that strength for you. So if you look at it, the range, of highly effective is 10 to 15, not as intense or very intense, but lower in intensity is where we get to like the fair score. So when you look at your POWERDISC and the entire sheet that you have on your disc, it describes all of this to you in minimal use, limited use, fair, adequate, good, above average, well-developed, highly effective, main focus, and extreme focus, and it describes the strength of it. So look below your power graph and you will see each of the 7 categories. For example, you will see influencing, and then it might say minimal use or good. or highly effective. Below each category, you're going to see a summary providing you with personalized information on your POWERDISC. So now that you have a better idea of your own strengths and what they mean, let's talk about what your next step should be. How do you use these strengths? Using the POWERDISC page, identifying your strengths, what you tend to end up do is look at the projects and work you're currently engaged in and find ways that you can use your strengths to expand your influence of results. Where needed, find ways to neutralize, delegate, or even outsource the areas that you are not naturally gifted in. The real key is that just like in the game of tennis, you and I do our best work without feeling like we are stretching too much to do it when we are playing to our strengths. So now let's share one more thing. Oftentimes, you and I learn through each other. So as we wrap up, what I want us to do is comment in the chat and get into the Q&A. What's your big takeaway about these strengths and what your disc says your strengths are? And what I'd like to do for each of you that maybe don't have a disc is I'd like to offer you the opportunity to get a disc and for us to be able to sit down and debrief and help you create your personal development plan, your PDP. And what we'd like to do is we'd like you to go to project1202.com. That's project1202.com, and you'll find a spot on the page to buy a disc. When you hit the buy now button, you're going to get transferred via email to us, and we'll set you up with a unique key code that then you can take your disc, and then we can show you where your POWERDISC, where all of your leadership strengths and qualities are. So a quick story about myself. Part of the Project 1202 idea and dream came through our own growth story. We created a program called Passport to Growth. And we started, teaching lessons on values and qualities that we need to be good leaders. And as part of that, program and how it started to develop, we started to collaborate, and that's how actually the coaching, program started within Project 1202, where myself and Dave Rudine, Lee is my wife, Stephanie Gerard, Melissa Randall, all came together and started collaborating on the Project 1202 coaching team. And that's how we serve our clients now, is through our strengths. As we were coming up with ideas and playing to our strengths, I created the theme behind Project 1202 based on a Bible verse that was Romans 12:2 that says, "Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." And I stop right there and I say, man, if we could all acknowledge that the patterns of this world are a little bit messy, and if we can renew our mind to new information, renew our mind to our strengths and our natural abilities, and position ourselves well, we could be more successful. We could have more peace. We could have more happiness and joy in our lives. And as we started to really develop this, my creativity was stifled when it got into the detail-specific nature of putting together a website. We actually hired out to an outside source the web development from the standpoint that it was not in any of our natural abilities. And I think that's key to share as the takeaway that we want to share with you is we're prepared and equipped to put ourselves in our strengths. Stephanie has strengths that Dave doesn't have. Dave has strengths that Lee doesn't have. Lee has strengths that Melissa doesn't have. And Melissa has strengths that I don't have. It reminds us of a quote from Mother Teresa that says, "I can do what you can't do. You can do what I can't do. And together we can do great things." And that's the essence of what we aspire to do. Now, what we'd like to do is bring you into the mix, learn about how we can add value to you, help you renew your mind, and how you can take the new information that you have in your DISC assessment and turn it into more success, more productivity, more joy, and more happiness in your life. So again, thank you for being with me today for this short webinar. We're going to get into the Q&A now, and we're going to shut down the recording. And I look forward to, if you are catching this by recording, that you visit, again, www.project1202.com, project1202.com, and order your disc. And I look forward to helping and serving you in that journey.